What is up, everyone? JD here. I hope you're all doing well today. Today we're going to be doing the disassembly and maintenance of the CMB knives Predator. I do recommend Weehaw bits and the stubby driver from Weehaw, which is all linked down below, as is this mat and any oil and other supplies that I'm using. Those should be in like the permanent links down below. You will need a T6 for the hardware and you will need a T8 for the pivot. This should be pretty straightforward. It is on roller bearings. Could be a little bit of a challenge because of how this one is designed. So I am going to take it apart to show you what the Omega spring looks like, because I am curious. It is a very strong Omega spring. And then I'm going to reinstall the scale, except for the pocket clip, because I do want to do a force patina with some mineral oil that I have set aside here. I'm going to be doing that towards the end. And then we will check out the Omega springs. And what did I say? We're going to take the pivot apart. Oh, and I'll show you how I normally disassemble crossbar lock knives. I usually just remove the blade and the bearings, and that should be out all the way. And once I've done that, then I typically slide it out from the pivot and then slide it back in. I just want to take a peek at the Omega springs since we're here, so no Loctite there. So let's remove the scale. So this does look like a larger size Omega spring, and I think because of the spread on it, that's probably why it feels a little bit stiffer. Also notice that the D-shaped pivot looks like it goes all the way through. So from here we could disassemble it, and maybe it would be better to do that one time, because I always disassemble it with the scale on. So let's take the pivot out. Well, yeah, that's a little tight tolerances. And we'll remove the blade, and it looks like the bearings are recessed, and it looks like the smooth side is facing the blade. So I am curious about what size bearings these are. I've worked with so many disassemblies here recently, they're all kind of looking the same, but I did want to measure in case anybody's curious about that. So let's check this pivot. It looks quite robust. It looks like, yeah, it is a 1/4 inch pivot. So it is a very large pivot size. So this is very robustly built, and the bearings, so 1/4 pivot and 3/16. So 1/4, 3/16 would fit if you wanted to replace. For me, it's a budget knife. I mean, it's a $70 knife, which is actually, as I mentioned in the review, a little overpriced in my opinion for what you're getting. You know, it is a crossbar locking knife, but I feel like you're in that Civivi territory. But I don't think the build quality is quite as good as a Civivi, in my opinion. I think this is built well, don't get me wrong, but I think when you're paying $70 for Civivi, you're getting really, really good build quality. So let's see here. Yeah, so the liners are inset, so it should be easier to do this type of install. And I'll show you here in a second how. So I'm going to clean all of this. We cleaned the blade. Let's clean the knife off. Hopefully putting a little bit better quality lube on here will improve the action. And because of the fact that they actually did mill out the spot for the bearings, it should be really easy to reinstall. But normally what I would say that you would do is you would want to go ahead and bring the lock bar back and try to press the stop pin through, pull the stop pin out, and then you can remove it. But this type of design is really not that bad as far as taking it apart. You would just need to take this scale off, and then you'd be able to pull the lock bar back, and you'd be able to completely disassemble the knife. And you can do that if you want to. For me, I think I'm just going to be okay with taking the cloth and drying everything out. And I'm having a little bit of a hard time reaching in there, so give me 1 second. So I'm just going to grab, I have a little tiny This was from an adjustment knob from an adjustable suspension that I used to have on my 2002 WRX. So this comes in so handy. I have quite a few of these. I think they came with my AGX adjustable shocks. And I'm just going to use this to reach down and clean out the pivot, just moving the cloth around inside, trying to get it really clean. Yeah, so definitely cleaned it out nicely. And this will actually come in handy for reinstalling these washers. Remember, it was smooth side facing up, so that's how you're going to want to reinstall it back. I am flipping it over because I like to use the cup to catch the lube. And then I will work it in, flip it, and scoot it into place with the screwdriver. So, oh. I wish I could show you this. Maybe I can get the angle. It literally just rolled and fell in. Well, I'll have to explain that one. I'll have to explain that one because that was just way too much. Ended up using that little screwdriver that I talked about to kind of get them lined up in the pivot, and then I stood it upright, and then once I had them stood upright, I ended up kind of wiggling it into place to get it to stay into place. So I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the pivot, and we're going to have to use the 2 screws. Are these both 6s? They're both 6s. The 2 bit drivers to get the back screws into place. So let me get this started, and then the last thing I'll show is the force patina. But these roller bearing access lock knives, great action, little bit of a pain to reinstall everything once you have it in place. So I'm gonna close this up and grab this screw, and we will get this going. And then once we have that in place, all right, I'm going the right way, right? Yeah. Oh, it tightened up. Yep. Yeah, it tightened up. Nice and centered. Action feels smooth. No blade play. All right, let's reinstall the pocket clip. Nope, almost forgot. Let's do our mineral oil treatment real quick. Almost forgot. Almost forgot. Whoa, too much oil. That's enough for both sides. And mineral oil is safe if this is a food prepping knife for you. I just wanted to get the green a little bit darker on here, and we will let that absorb. It came out way faster than I meant. So I'm just going to work it in a little bit, try to hit the edges here. Let me close this. It feels like it's a little tight in the pivot. I might want to loosen it up some. Work that mineral oil in there nice and deep. And it's just going to darken up the green, make it look a little bit nicer. But what I was saying about the pivot, I ended up, since it did have the cutout, I grabbed like a screwdriver, or if you have something even smaller, like an O-ring puller or something, that would be even better, because what you can do is use it to kind of hold back and work the blade towards it. And then once the blade has them sandwiched, you can pull that out. And what you can do at that point is just work the blade over carefully and get them into place. And that really is just the easiest way to maintenance your crossbar locking knife. Let me check the plate on this again. Feels like it has a little play, but it feels super stiff. So I'm just trying to get all the excess mineral oil off, and then I will check up the pivot. Some people might think it looked better a little dried out, but honestly, this is going to be really good for the fibers in the micarta to keep it conditioned so that it doesn't deteriorate too fast. All right, nice and tight, nice and tight, snug, not tight. Don't over tighten here. You don't want to strip your screw heads or the threading in the steel liners. That feels good. Let me grab my T8, check that pivot out. That pivot feels like it's a little loose. All right, let's see. Yeah, feels good. Feels good. So another video in the books for the disassembly and maintenance. I think the mineral oil on the knife looks really good. Be careful around the blade's edge. And again, mineral oil, food safe. So if you are using this knife for a little bit of your food prep for lunches or whatever, it is not going to harm anything. It'll be really good for that. And I mean, it's really well built. It's definitely engineered well. I think I would like to see manufacturers taking the extra effort to put a D-shaped pivot on the standoffs. I think that would be really, really good to help with, you know, preventing the screws from moving around on you while you're trying to do some very simple routine maintenance on the knife. I saw a little mineral oil down in there, so I was trying to get that out. But I really do. I like the Predator. I think it's a great blade shape. I think it's extremely well built. You know, 70 is a little high in my opinion. I think if they could really bring that down, even just $5, $65 for the 14C28N micarta with the crossbar lock, which is going to be way stronger of a lock mechanism than what you're going to find with the button locks that are in this price point. And honestly, even stronger than your liner locks. As far as hard use, heavy duty use, this lock is going to hold up really well. Taking the scales off isn't going to be bad, but I would say probably get yourself that tool from Flytanium, because you will have to take the pivot out if you ever do want to replace and or maintenance the Omega springs yourself. But great little knife. Hopefully this video helped you. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to everyone out there leaving the likes and supporting the channel and helping it grow. I really appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you have a fantastic week, and until next time, peace.